Hello and welcome to this second episode of CDL This Week, hosted by myself, Camallenn.
And me, Horizontal. Thank you for tuning in into what's going to be a great second episode. Got lots of topics this week we want to touch on, as it's the run-up to the weekend in Minnesota, opening weekend.
Yeah, we've got first weekend of the season coming. All very, very excited for that. Got lots of stuff to touch on. Going to be touching on kind of the predictions for Minnesota, our thoughts on what the first weekend of the season will be like, what we think is going to happen throughout the weekend, and what we're kind of excited for, really. We'll just crack on with the stuff, first of all, that happened last week. And obviously go on.
That's right. Been a few things, haven't there, since last episode. Things that we talked about that have now since been announced. So, I mean, we talked about jerseys and merch a little bit last week. And obviously they announced all that. It did get leaked though, didn't it?
Yeah, it's got leaked a little bit early. Big up CDL Intel. He releases all the stuff early. We're like getting all of that stuff through.
I swear, so much this year has been leaked early.
Oh, everything. He had all the rosters about 2 months before anyone even announced anything.
Like the branding.
The branding got leaked on the website, I think they didn't it? What was it? Because someone was going through the files and they found all the branding. That was all quite funny. But if we're going to kick off with the merch, I'd definitely like to just say how ridiculously overpriced it is to get it shipped to the UK.
Yeah, I mean, part of me had hoped, the website got leaked as the US one, and I kind of hoped, okay, maybe there is an EU one that just isn't live yet, but doesn't seem to be the case. And what's slightly more annoying though is if you're in the US and you spend over $25 something, you get free shipping. But
for the UK, you get I saw that we spend enough and you get the free,
which is annoying. I personally am just going to wait till obviously London weekend and see what.
Oh, same. I don't even know if I'm going to get anything there. It was all quite expensive, and the jerseys were a little bit basic. But it's only the first season, so I mean, it can only go up, in my opinion.
It can, and I'm not against the jerseys. A lot of people don't like the fact that they're all the same design, just recolored. I'm fine with that.
I don't have anything wrong with that. It keeps
the
it
design is
similar.
The design could have been a lot worse, but it's nothing special for an esports jersey. So it's just a bit of mediocre. The hoodies though, love the hoodies. I think the hoodies look sick.
Yeah, the hoodies did look good. Again, like I said, it's just impossible to get it shipped out to England. I mean, I don't even know what the shipping prices was. I didn't even bother looking because you just know how expensive it's going to be.
Yeah, I didn't, and I would imagine it's going to be a similar situation of 100 Thieves merch and stuff, and basically
that's something I am interested in buying. Although I think we might have missed it. Did it come out today?
The 100 Thieves jerseys, they've been and gone.
Oh, have they? Have I missed it? Oh, shit.
That's what you're on about.
Didn't know I'd already missed them, blimey. Oh, fair enough. They were fire though. That was good stuff. That was good.
Yeah, it's hopefully for second year, merch will evolve and improve as the years go on. I'm sure it will.
Oh, of course it will. I mean, like I said, it's only the first. It's only the first season. It's the first release as well. I mean, I'm expecting more stuff to be released throughout the year, and probably be limited edition stuff to each venue potentially. That'd be nice to see, special branding for each event and stuff.
Also, touching on things that we talked about last week, we talked about lineups, and we both talked about how Toronto has the biggest team but no starting lineup, and we didn't know who'd scrim together or anything, but that's kind of come out now who their starting lineup is.
Yes, can I remember off the top of my head? I don't have it open. I think it was.
I have it open.
Have you got it open? Because all I can remember is man like Cami MVP.
Yeah, Cami MVP, Methods, Looney, Classic, and Metals.
Yes. One thing I've seen people talking about is how people like Brack, Bance, and Lucky aren't playing based on their careers and stuff like that. But obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, Cammy was an amateur for most of last year, but for all we know, he's been absolutely dominating in their scrims and behind the scenes is just being a good teammate, well-rounded. And it's a shame to see people like Brack on his breakout year not get in, and especially people like Bance, who's a well-loved EU member of the community.
And don't forget, like, this is opening weekend, they've specified it as, so the starting for the next weekend could change.
Yeah, of course.
I'd imagine more, like, there's a lot more to it, I suppose. Like, people say, oh, it's their breakout years, like, they're not getting a chance, but at the end of the day, you want to find the 5 people that gel the best and communicate the best, don't you?
Exactly what I was going to say.
Especially with 10 people, like, you've got to find that 5 that click the best out of 10, because there's so many different variables of who could play and who would sit out and stuff. So,
like you said, it can change from week to week. It's very true. I mean, this could just be what they're liking at the moment, but for all we know, they could get smoked 3-0 in both of their games, and be gone within that, and then then they go back to the drawing board and potentially make changes. So it's a long season. I mean, what is it? 12 events plus champs. Is that right?
12 events plus champs and plus
the All-Star. Yeah. So it's a long season. I mean, anything can change from week to week, from day to day, even from match to match, from map to map. I mean, with the induction of substitutes mid-game, and anything can happen now. One player could have an absolute shocker, or for all we know, Brack could be their S&D superstar this year and could be coming in and playing in their S&D matches. So,
exactly. And I reckon that's just their starting lineup. There's nothing been said about, like, 4 S&D maps, whether they are going to sub out, or you don't know if it was so close between 2 people for a certain position that they're just going to try them, one person on one map and then swap them out and try the other one on the second map.
Yeah. Anyone can do anything, I think, in this game. It's all especially first weekend and then going into London. I mean, we could see the complete other 5 in the squad for the London event. So
for London,
and you won't get that with Toronto, any team.
Toronto with 10 players, I think their lineup's going to change the most, and I think it'll be the one that there's a lot of swaps mid games and from weekend to weekend.
I tell you what, I am interested to see is especially I think the only foreign one on that starting is Metals, obviously being Spanish. How he's going to communicate with the others, especially with the British in Cami, and then you've got the Americans in Classic and Looney and Methods. It's going to be interesting.
I presume if he's on the starting lineup, but like his communications, like in his English, is good enough to communicate. I mean, you see in other esports though, there's like people make it work, no matter like what language they speak and stuff. Like people do find it. It all comes down to how well they can communicate across languages, if that is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, being on the starting lineup, they must have good and, like you said, good enough communication to warrant that starting spot, because otherwise he would neither him or Lucky would be anywhere near the starting team if he couldn't call out correctly to his team. So, Metals last year was probably one of the biggest up and coming stars, but I personally hadn't heard of him until last season, and he came out with that Heretics team and he was probably their star. Well, maybe bar Lucky, he was their star player last year. He was absolutely frying teams left, right, and centre. So
he's definitely doing something right, and obviously he's proven himself to get himself on the starting lineup. So I guess opening weekend will kind of be the way to tell if that's the right move or not. But
there'll definitely be a team to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Paris have announced their starting lineup.
Yes.
They were the only other team that hadn't.
This is a team I like, actually. Even though I don't like Paris, I like the players that are on this team. Who is it? You got Shox, Dens, Luca, Zed, and who's the fifth?
Kismet.
Kismet. Yeah, I like Kismet as well. He's a good player. Him. That's a team I like. It's a very sub heavy team in my opinion, based on other games. You got Zed, Kismet, and Luca. But then you got 2 strong ARs and Shox and
this Call of Duty is this very sub heavy Call of Duty, so they might play it in their favour.
Which is strange because when the game came out, everyone thought it was going to be AR heavy, didn't they?
Oh yeah, that M4.
Well, the MP5's taken over, innit? As much as I hate Paris, like I said, I think that team is actually going to do quite well. I mean, obviously they've only just started scrimming over in America with those. I think they had some visa issues or whatever. They couldn't move over, so I know that Zed used to tweet out being like, Huntsman scrims are starting, can't wait to learn how to play the game, and stuff like that, just taking a piss.
Yeah.
But
They've definitely, there's a couple of teams, weren't there, that have not scrimmed so much, Paris and Gorillas.
The Gorillas, yes.
So it's kind of hard to, on paper, Paris definitely looks good and sounds good. Obviously, we haven't really got much to go off.
Yeah, which I think, like a lot of the teams, I personally haven't watched a lot of scrims. I know what people have been talking about on Twitter and stuff, talking about how we think teams are going to get on. Obviously, people are putting Atlanta now at the top of their power rankings, which easily takes us into our next topic, which is the power rankings, made by CDL Intel, as we mentioned before. He's very up to date on all of his stuff. And I think you've got the lineup, you've got the rankings there, have you?
Yeah, I have. He brought out the power rankings, and this was all based off, he talked to, I think, players and coaches and got like their votes on other people.
Yes.
And he basically come out that Atlanta FaZe is number 1. You've got Dallas Empire number 2.
Standard.
Chicago Huntsman in 3rd.
I mean, that's a standard top 3. I think that's what everyone would be putting out as their top 3.
Yeah, I think that was the expected, definitely the expected top 3. And you got Minnesota Rocker in 4th. New York in 5th. Seattle Surge is in 6th. I kind of maybe would have expected them a little bit higher, because they on paper their squad sounds very, very good, but I suppose, I mean, this is what the coaches are voting on, so
yes.
Kind of, I personally expected them to be a bit higher up than 6th place, but it is what it is. We've got Florida Mutineers in 7th, Optic Gaming in 8th.
Yeah.
London's down in 9th.
Oh, I'm not happy about that one.
I would have liked them to be number 1, but that's a bit biased, I suppose.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is.
Toronto's in 10th. And then, as we said, there's LA Gorillas in 11th and Paris in 12th. And stated in on the CDL stated about the fact that the coaches had said they hadn't scrimmed very much or not scrimmed them in a long time, so it was kind of hard to run.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, that they've not really been scrimming to the highest potential like a lot of the teams. What was it, the run Atlanta went on? I think it was like a 40 win streak in scrims, and then it was about one loss followed by another 50 odd wins, I think it was, in a row. So a bit of a different level, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think definitely for opening weekend it's going to be interesting between FaZe, Empire and Huntsman to see who is the best. I
mean, there'll definitely be some other teams. I haven't heard much talk about the other teams being dominant, but I mean, anything can happen. It's opening weekend, you're on LAN, it's first LAN of the season, anything can happen, and anyone can choke on the main stage, It'll be
definitely.
I'm excited for it.
A lot of these players haven't even played on LAN yet. Some of the amateurs that have only just come through this season, so it's a completely new experience.
Yeah, of course, with Illy,
and
Illy's probably the first one that springs to mind. I mean, Shotzi obviously hasn't played COD on LAN. Obviously, he's been playing Halo for the last few years, but definitely Illy's the first one that springs to mind there. But I think everyone's not expecting big things out of Illy. Don't want to sound like it's putting pressure on him, but everyone is thinking he's going to be an absolute fry man when it comes to especially his SMG gameplay. Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely a few that are going to have high expectations on them to do well in this opening season. But obviously, it's so easy to predict at the moment and guess and take your votes on who you think's going to win. But until we see them all play,
it's a bit like last year with obviously I think it was Optic. They won, was it 4 or 5 out of 5 2Ks last year, and everyone was going, well, they're going to win the first event, and they came out and I think dropped 4 maps all weekend, I think it was, which was absolutely insane.
Terrible.
Yeah.
You could be absolutely frying in the off season, and we've seen it happen before, where first event, the team that's been doing the best then does absolutely terrible. So
yeah, it's a potential for that to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just the level of this new format and new event, so it's a lot of change for a lot of players. So it'll be interesting to see how they just slot back into it, and if it affects them in any way.
Yeah, it would be good. I mean, I'm excited for it. Just talking about events and stuff. Just before we get into our thoughts on Minnesota in the opening weekend, obviously the whole format for the season got released.
Yes, it did.
And I'm
schedules.
very excited because it works very well for UK.
Yeah, the schedule looks very interesting. I do like how they've changed the format, because we were originally having 5 matches for our London event over the weekend, and it's now over double that. I think, is it 13 games we have now?
Oh God, I think we touched on this last week, and it's completely slipped my brain. I can't remember.
Yeah,
how many
there's 13 matches over the weekend, and originally it was 5. So I mean, that's exactly what everyone wanted.
Yes,
they've over doubled it, and they've done it in a format that I think will work really well. The whole Group A and Group B system.
Yeah, I like it. I like the Swiss format. I think it's a really good format because it gives the best teams the best opportunity to progress out of their group.
Exactly, and it kind of makes like each weekend a bit more worth it because they're each of their individual kind of little tournament. So the whole format is lovely.
Would you class? I know this has been spoken about on Twitter and on just around the community really. Would you class each event as a chip? Would you be classing it as a win?
I would, yeah. Because if you obviously the only thing is not every single team's there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're winning one of the weekends, you've beaten 7 other teams. So, and everyone's gonna have played the same amount at the end of the whole season. So I mean, yeah, I'd consider each one a chip. If you're winning a weekend, it's worth something.
Yeah. I think people will class it as a chip, but it's just whether they class it as kind of as important as winning the whole season. I mean, I think it will count. People will put it on their kind of tally of of their event wins, but it's just not going to be as meaningful, I don't think, as the old events. And that was a nice voice crack. The old events and the and champs. Obviously, I think that's the. I don't think many people. Obviously, you care about winning because you get the points for the season, but it's whether they will definitely not care as much for those as they do when it comes to champs time.
I think the thing people care more about it is the home teams. I think will care the most about trying to win their home weekends.
That's a good shout.
I think that means a lot. If London Royal Ravens win the London weekend, that's a good statement to make.
The crowd would absolutely love that.
Yeah, exactly. Also, my brain just goes to F1 and how certain drivers always kind of win the same tracks. So it's kind of it'd be interesting to see over after this year, say London wins the London weekend, if next year, if everyone will be kind of thinking, oh, can London win their weekend again and hold the title? I think that'll be a bit more of an interesting way that people will start to keep track of them, rather than them just being on the same level as the wins were last year.
The thing I'm interested in is you take Crim6. Obviously, he has 33 chips. I think it is. I think it's 33. Obviously, he's going for that title. He's trying to take that title off Ogre 2 for the most championship wins in FPS history. And I mean, if Dallas are doing well this year, I mean, he could easily take that title off of Ogre 2.
It's true. He could.
Just based on the amount of tournaments he's got. And that's something I'm interested in because obviously last year, how many did we have? I think we only had six or 7 majors, and he didn't have as much opportunity to rival Ogre 2. And this year, I mean, he's got 12 opportunities this year. So it'd be interesting to see how close he gets.
Last year, especially with not that the squad just wasn't gelling last year, whereas this year he seems to be in a team that's definitely showing that they're skilled and kind of dominant. So if he doesn't get the title or at least close to it, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, I mean that team is good. Obviously, we've got to see how the year progresses because any team could end up coming through. I'm excited for the Florida team. I think that Florida team is going to be quite good.
Interesting that you bring up the Florida team. We talked about last week how we didn't really know what Maniac was doing on the Florida team.
Yeah.
And that he is classed as a player. Well, I still follow him on Twitter and stuff and keep track of mainly most of the Opta guys and what they were to. But he put a video up and he explained in that video he is actually signed as a player, but is more signed to be a content creator.
Okay.
But the way, it seems that from what I got from the video is that the teams can kind of you don't have to be a professional player to be signed as one of the players. They can sign a content creator and just put them under the player.
Yeah, I think that's what the Huntsmen are going to do with Embos. To be honest, I don't really see him playing too much.
For them to fill spots and not struggle to fill the minimum of 7.
Yes,
is my guess anyway.
So
who's interesting?
Who's Florida's second sub then? If you've got to have 7, I don't know unless it's have they got a coach? Sure. Unless they list their coach as their sub.
Possibly. Let me see if
because I've only seen that they had Maniac. That'll be.
They must have. You've got to. I remember at the start they've got Atora.
Oh, so they're Atora. Yeah, that's their coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's classed as their sub. Interesting. Okay, that's good to know. So I think.
Yeah, that is interesting. He's also marked as their coach at the same time.
Yeah, well, Crowder did that last year on 100 Thieves. He was once Ferro left, he was listed as their coach. I think a lot of teams did that last year because it just meant they didn't have to pay another player to be a part of that team.
I suppose it keeps their because they obviously have salary limits, don't they, for the whole team?
Yes.
And if you can fill 2 spots with one person, it means they can pay certain players more to get some of the better players, I suppose. Is one way they could be trying to play.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just interesting to me that anyone can be signed kind of as a player, even though they might not be playing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, with the content creator thing. I mean, anyone can be a part of the team, and I'm not sure whether I like it. I think we tried to touch on it last week. I'm not sure it's the best thing for the amateur players, but it then allows them to play in the Path to Pro stuff or whatever. It's the Challenger League.
I mean, I think I love the fact that they're signing content creators to the team because it means trying to build the league into more than just the pro players in the actual tournaments. You can have stuff outside to build the brands, which is great. I just don't know if I agree with them being signed as a player because that takes up a player slot, which an actual amateur player might be wanting.
Yes.
Be interesting to see if next year there's a bit more of they move those content creators into a content creator title and actually have players for players.
I think it just depends if they have to keep in 2-way contracts next year with the amateur players, because I know a lot of players didn't want to, because I know teams weren't running Challenger League teams, so a lot of people wanted to compete rather than just sitting on the bench, and that's why you've got these players that aren't going to necessarily play, just listed as subs. I mean, earning a free 50k a year, we touched on last week. So
I think maybe after a year of it, hopefully maybe next year you'll see more of the teams having an amateur team as a way to bridge that gap. I think it's a lot of it is it is year one. There's going to be a lot of changes for the second year. It'll be interesting to see if some of these things that we're talking about now at the start of this season, if at the start of next season where we're talking about how they've changed, or if they are still the same.
Yes.
But I suppose we should probably. Well, I was going to say we should, unless you've got anything else to touch on.
No, you. I was going to say. I know exactly what you're going to say because I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think just rolling off of that, we should definitely now hop into talking about Minnesota. Talking about the first weekend coming starting Friday. We're very excited for that, and I'm sure everyone is.
I will say off the bat, like this feels like it's been a long off season.
Oh, it has.
Like
I think someone tweeted out today that it's been 5 months since champs.
Which is ridiculous to think about. But I'm also like, is that longer than normal? I can't remember when the first event was last year.
The first event last year was in December. Start of December, I think it was Vegas.
So we're like a month and a half longer.
Yeah.
Crazy that is the length of the off season. It'll be interesting to see if that affects things a little bit. Like players that have those players haven't played on stage now for 5.5 months or whatever. It's going to be like how many of them are a bit rusty at first. It's just like getting back into the groove of things.
Yeah, that's what I touched on earlier with people not playing on LAN ever. I mean, yeah, you're right. Yeah. People haven't played on LAN for 5 months. I'm sure people are going to be boot camping this week. I'd be very surprised if they're not, because you've got to get back into the swing of things, especially with the more money on the line this season and playing for the franchises now. You've got to be making sure you're still earning your spot in the team. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, Minnesota is like opening weekend. Like personally, I think they need to hit the ground running. There's a lot of people are positive about the league and everything, but I think they need to try and hit the ground running to really get this league going and get the fans fully behind it. I'm interested to see obviously they've changed the format and there's a lot more games. I'm also interested to see what other things they have going on the weekends. Like what amateur things are shown. Obviously London's talked about how they've got like I forget which artist it is doing the after party.
Nicky Romero is the one in London.
It'll be interesting to see what Minnesota's got in store, because I don't know if they haven't really revealed much.
I haven't seen anything be announced,
especially
as of yet.
Day one as well, because obviously Minnesota's over 3 days. They've got the Friday as well, but there's only like 3 games on the Friday, I think.
Yeah, I think the first one starts at about 10:30 p.m. So a bit of a late one over here, but
yeah,
should be good fun. Should be good fun.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting that I'd like to know the process of how they got to be the first event, whether it was just drawn out of a hat or like teams that actually bid to, like whichever teams like kind of put in a bid to do. Because obviously, like if you told me which team do you think should, like before they did even announce Minnesota, my guess would have been like either Huntsman or maybe like
London.
Optic, like or London.
Get it over here. Get it over here. That would have been a banger.
Everyone knows how good the London events are. I mean, we get 2, so we can't really complain.
That is very true. I am very happy that we get 2 this year. Obviously, one is fun. One wasn't enough last year. After I got back from the event last year, all I wanted to do was have another one. But it was a shame they didn't stick champs over in London last year. That would have been good fun.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think it's safe to say that with 2 events already for London, it's unlikely we're going to get champs this year in London.
Highly unlikely. I'd be very surprised if we get London this year.
But I think it'll be good in Minnesota. Be interesting. I mean, I don't know how closely you follow Gary V. If you know of Gary V.
I don't know who that is. No.
He is I guess entrepreneur, owns a media company. Like he's huge on YouTube for doing like his like daily V. Like he's a businessman and he basically has a guy following him around with a camera. Okay. Really interesting. Gives loads of insight on stuff. He's like co-owner for Minnesota.
Okay.
So he's been doing lots of interviews over the last month, and doing like talks with some of the Minnesota people when they've been doing interviews. He's been there talking about stuff. He's saying that they've got a lot in store for the opening weekend, and because he owns a media agency, so I'm expecting, like, he knows how to do social media and how to use it, so I'm expecting the things he will have maybe put in store, that he's going to make sure the weekend's a banger.
I hope so. I hope every weekend's a good weekend. So it would just be interesting to see kind of what everyone has in store. But other than, I think we got a little bit sidetracked there. let's bring it back to Minnesota. Well, obviously you kind of did there, but let's bring it back fully and start talking about the games and what we think the outcomes are going to be. Have you got the list of games there?
Yeah,
you do.
I've got the list. We've got 12 matches over the weekend.
Yes.
Every team plays twice, and they're kicking off with Chicago versus Dallas, which is definitely, I think they've listened. Because that wasn't originally the first game, I don't think.
Oh God, that's over my head. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like when they first announced, I have a feeling. I can't remember. It might have been. I might be incorrect there, but I think that's a great. There's already been the social media rivalry.
Yeah.
Between Chicago Huntsmen and Dallas
Well,
Empire.
you've just got the rivalry with. Sorry, go on.
No. The opening game is. I mean, it's just like, let's just go straight into it and actually find out which is the better team. Put it to rest straight off the bat.
I mean, you've definitely got the rivalry with Crimsix and Seth in there. That'll be a fiery start to the weekend, I would have thought. Lots of screaming and shouting going on and hand signals across the stage, I would have thought. So,
I mean, everyone knows Clayster likes to do his gestures as well. So.
Yeah, true. Forgot about Clayster, yeah. So that'll be good. And Clayster versus Arcites as well, isn't it? The old EU United.
Yes,
so
it is.
That'll be good.
So there's definitely like a couple of team rivalries there, like ex-teammate rivalries going on. Personally, like it's hard to tell. Like I've followed Scream. Like from what I know, is Huntsmen have struggled to beat Empire. They're like one of the only teams they've struggled to beat. So, I'd love, like, as a big Optic fan, I'm probably definitely more of a fan of Scump than I am Crimsic.
Yeah, but same here. Yeah,
I think Empire, like, depends obviously on the day, but I think Empire might win that one. I think they might just in a better place as a team, or like this early on.
I'd agree
to kind of like beat them out.
But you've also got the thing I touched on earlier with Illy not having played on LAN, Shotzi not played COD on LAN before. So it'll be interesting to see. Definitely, I think that's going to be an interesting game. But should we continue on? What's the second game we've got of the weekend?
So the second game is the fight of the water-based teams. I don't know what you want to call them, but
water-based teams, Mutineers and
Mutineers.
Yes. Who do we think for that one? Seattle Surge. I don't know. That'd be a tough one.
Like just looking at who's on, I kind of want to side with Seattle Surge. They've got Octane, Enable, Karma. Like they have teams like a strong team versus like Prestini and Havoc and Frosty. More like you've got Muniz has got a strong team, but I just like personally, I think the sure a bit more like I don't know. You've got Karma on Surge. I just feel like Karma's the man.
He does look quite good at this game. It'll be. I think that's it's a tight one. I'm not really sure how to call that because, like I said, I like the look of the Florida team, but that Seattle team is good on paper. It is good on paper. I'm interested for that one. That should be a good second game to the weekend. Two good games to kick us off there.
Yeah, I think they're kicking it off strong with those two games, and then they're ending. First day, the Friday ends with Minnesota versus LA Gorillas. So, I mean, you've got the home team versus Gorillas, who, as far as we know, haven't scrimmed a lot. We don't really know much about on like how well they're playing.
Yeah,
I think it'd be nice if the home team can win their first game. Like, I think that'll really just get the crowd going and get the whole weekend off. Great start to the weekend. I mean, the Minnesota team looks good. Gorillas, I'm not so sure on them. So
I'd definitely side with Minnesota.
Yeah, I think they'll probably take that. which will be good for the weekend. Like, as I said,
Yes.
home team winning.
Yeah, home team winning definitely is always a good thing. But I don't know how many supporters Minnesota are going to have, because I know just a lot of people are going to be supporting Dallas and Chicago mainly. So
yeah, I think the top, like Dallas and Chicago, have got a lot of supporters. New York does. London's got like the whole of the UK behind them, and Ireland.
of course.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, that touches on it being like opening weekend as well. Like, it'd be interesting to see how many people actually turn out for the event, compared to like the other events as we go along. It'll be interesting to compare it and see. I suppose that'll be the best way to show which has the biggest home crowd. My money's on London, but
My money, the best crowd will definitely be London, but I would have said the most followed home. Actually, no, the most followed home crowd would definitely be London, followed by Chicago. I'd have thought.
And I mean, so keeping it on London, the game after the next game, so first game on the Saturday, we've got New York versus.
Sorry, I think you cut out massively there.
Yeah, I've just seen.
Yeah, it's your voice is cutting out and you keep freezing, but we don't mind the freezing as long as the voice is okay. Sorry, carry on what you were saying.
So we've got first game on the Saturday is London versus New York.
London versus New York. Obviously backing London. I like that New York team. I like the New York team. So that'll be interested to see that one.
Yeah, I think both good teams, both strong teams. I think my bias is just gonna have to take it on this one, and I'd probably go with London.
Oh yeah, same without a doubt. I can't not back London on that one. So.
And then we'll the game after that, we've got Toronto Ultra, so the big team versus Seattle Surge has their second game. Let me turn off my camera and see if that helps the situation.
Might turn off the.
So we've got Ultra versus Surge.
Yes.
I mean, obviously we'll get to see that opening team of Ultra and see actually how well they do. Oh yeah, that's messed up. Yeah.
No, it's all right. Carry
on. Versus Seattle, and I mean by this point we'll have seen Seattle play. So I guess depending if they're coming off Florida on a win, I'd probably put my money definitely on Seattle. But obviously, like Ultra, there's so many players there.
I do like Looney. I think Looney's a good player. I know he's very underrated. I think that game will be interesting. Obviously, you're right. If Seattle do come off a win in their first game, which is obviously a possibility, yeah, you're right. It'll be interesting to see how that game goes down.
So I think it could be close, but I think my vote would probably be on Seattle, just because I'm kind of in the hopes that they win their Friday game. Then after the matchup after that is LA Gorillas versus Florida. So
LA Gorillas versus Florida. I would be back in Florida.
I would agree.
I can't see Gorillas doing well based off the fact that the rumours of them not scrimming a lot.
Exactly, and I think, say, like their previous matchups, like obviously LA Gorillas is against Minnesota on day one and Florida against Seattle. If we're going off the fact that Seattle wins and Minnesota wins, I think Florida can probably do better off a loss than LA Gorillas will, personally. But also, yeah, as you said, we haven't really heard much about them. We don't know how well they're scrimming.
Yeah.
So I would agree, Florida for that one.
What's the other game?
That takes us into the last Saturday game, which is Optic LA versus Paris.
Optic LA versus
Wow.
Paris. So yeah, like I said, I
think
like that Paris team,
the Paris team does look good, and I mean,
but
I think this might be the most hated, the most viewed by haters,
yeah,
as it's the new Optic. Um,
versus the London
it's
rivals.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be. I Paris looks good. Optic, I mean, Optic's got some great players.
I would go with Optic in that.
I, I think,
Just because of the rumours of them not scrimming and being
yeah,
not scrim, but not being the best in scrims, that can completely go away when you have the firepower they have in Slasher, Dashy, TJ, Kenny, and then JCap leading them. I mean, it's
they've
a
got
pretty stacked
great
roster.
players.
Yeah. Compared to the Paris one, it's way more stacked on paper, and Paris haven't
Yeah,
scrimmed a
Paris.
lot.
Yeah,
They
I was
haven't
just
scrimmed
going
a
to
lot.
say, yeah, Paris hasn't scrimmed properly. So I mean, yeah, Optic's probably going to win, though I'm sure they'll be met with a lot of hate.
I hope that's a game 5. That'll be a good game for a game 5. I think.
Yeah,
But
there's a few that could be good game 5s.
I'd like any game 5 apart from
True.
London. As long as London win 3-0, then I'm happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So then that moves us on to. Oh no, there's one more game for the Saturday, which is FaZe versus Empire. Interesting. That's like
What a game!
the
FaZe
top 2
versus
teams in the
Empire.
power rankings.
Fuck.
This will be FaZe's first game, and it'll be Dallas's second. So I mean, FaZe are strong. FaZe are doing strong.
But
So
like
if they can
you
hit
just
the
said,
ground
it's
running,
that'll be the first proper game on LAN.
yeah.
So
I
do they
I
turn
think
up?
honestly, it could come down to how well Chicago versus Empire goes.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
I still think though, even if Chicago, even if Empire beat Chicago, I would be backing Atlanta. The speed that team will bring with the 2 guys up front, and then with like Celium. I mean, even Celium's a fast player, Major Maniac, and then Simp, Beezy, and Priester. The speed of that team
true.
compared to like Crimsix and Clayster, especially in the respawns, that's going to be very difficult to deal with.
No, yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, they were top of the power rankings, so I think FaZe will take that. I think obviously, if Empire beats Chicago, they might make it a harder game because they'll be coming off the win. But I do think FaZe will take it as well.
Yes.
Then we're going on to this is when we're on to the last day, Sunday.
Nice, good.
So you got London versus Paris as first, the rivalry, the original rivalry of the CDL.
Oh, I'm excited for that one. Definitely back in London on that.
Obviously, I mean, love the guys on Paris and all that, but like, London needs to take the European title.
Oh, if we lose, I'll be devastated. I couldn't bear seeing us lose, especially to Paris. That's the only one we got to win.
I mean, yeah, out of the whole weekend, the most important game to me is the London Paris, and I'm backing London to win, obviously, and I do think they will win.
I do like the London team. Obviously, I know with Rated, he went out quite late, obviously, to America, so they haven't scrimmed as much, like, time-wise, as a lot of the other teams have, but Paris haven't scrimmed as much.
Exactly. More than Paris, so I think they're in a better position than Paris. So, let's hope that they can take home the European title and bring it to London.
Yeah, on the back of that.
After that, we've got another rivalry after that. We've got Chicago Huntsmen versus Optic LA.
God, there are some absolute banger games.
To be fair to the organizer, to CDL, they've rearranged this opening weekend to have some great games.
They've done it on purpose.
Oh yeah,
100%.
They've listened to social media and they're paying attention.
100%.
I think. But yeah, you got Huntsman versus Optic.
On paper, I would say Chicago, just based on scrims and stuff. But like I said, that Optic team is got a lot of firepower, And
It does, and they've got the whole like trying to prove a point.
especially against Chicago, yeah. But then
Yeah.
Seth and Formula are going to come out with the fire against them, so that's a game 5. I'd love to see game 5 in that.
Oh, that'd be a great game 5.
Game 5, round 11, Seth versus TJ, 1-on-1.
Yeah, there's so many rivalries going on there.
Yeah,
Like there's the old players versus each other. There's Hex versus his old team.
Or Scump versus his old, like just Scump versus his career. Really,
Yeah,
he never hasn't left
versus his
Optic
lifetime.
literally ever,
Like,
apart from the.
if that goes to game 5, that's probably going to be the most watched game of the weekend.
That or them versus Dallas. It will be the most watched ones of the weekend,
either or.
definitely. Yeah.
I mean, Sunday's full of rivalries. It seems we've got New York Subliners versus Atlanta FaZe. Got FaZe Boys versus
another good one. That
the old FaZe Boys
the
versus
old
new
FaZe
FaZe Boys.
Yeah. Attaching Zuma versus the old the new FaZe lot. That'd be a good one. I'm definitely going to go Atlanta on that one. I haven't heard too much about New York. I'm sure they're a pretty good team, but again, that firepower of that Atlanta
FaZe
team
is just looking the strongest. So I mean, I would expect them to win that. And then we close out the weekend with Minnesota versus Ultra, the fight for the North, as they're calling it.
Versus Ultra. Tough one to call that.
It is.
Two pretty average teams.
It's one of those. It's like I'd be interested to see if Ultra, like if they lose their first one, it'd be interesting to see if they switch up their roster for the second game. I kind of expect Minnesota to they've got that home ground advantage. Like, it doesn't mean much, but when you're in your home city, you're gonna be playing your best, hopefully. So I think Minnesota will probably take that against Ultra.
Yeah, I would say, just based on the rosters, I think that the Minnesota team have a little bit more firepower and a bit more experience than some of the guys on the Toronto team. I think the Toronto team sounds a little bit messy with the 10 players it could be, especially if the roster's only just been finalised. I mean, I don't know how long they've been scrimming, mainly as that main team, the starting 5, but yeah, I would agree that I'd definitely go for Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one. I think more so it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with the roster between the game on the Saturday and their last game on Sunday. I guess we could touch on which teams we think might come out 2-0.
Atlanta will I think will look the strongest, and I agree with the power rankings in the fact that they should be first. I just love that lineup. I think it's some class.
I think FaZe will definitely win both. I'd like to think they're going to win both of theirs, which I guess then means Dallas won't be able to win 2 games for the weekend because they're playing.
Yes, I mean, there's a potential Dallas go 0-2. I mean, obviously, there's a potential that any team. There's a potential any team can go 0-2, but I mean, they're playing 2 tough teams. That could not go.
But I mean, you could have the flip as well. Like Chicago could, if Dallas are playing well, Chicago could easily go 0-2.
Yeah,
so they're playing Dallas and LA and Optic. Like they could all go wrong against Optic, and they're 0-2. There's a lot of the fan favorite teams could actually have a really tough opening weekend.
Yeah, it'd be. I'm excited. I think the way they've set out the schedule is good. He's really good, especially for the fans. I mean, we're going to see some upsets. We're going to see some really, really good games. I mean, could be a potential for a lot of game 5s. So it's it's a good.
There's definitely going to be some upsets on opening weekend, and really kick off some new rivalries for the season. I think, especially going into London, because we've got Dallas and Chicago are both in London.
Yeah.
So there's a potential of rematch there. And I mean, we've got us. London and Paris are there, so I mean, I hope that we get a chance to play them again.
Yeah, that'd be good. I want us to play Paris as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see which teams. There's going to be an upset. I'm just not. I think out of the top teams, I think the team it's going to be either Empire or Chicago are going to be the upset. Like one of them is going to go 0-2. I think FaZe are fine, and then obviously a lot of the other games, there's not the strength of rivalry in those. It'd be interesting to see how Optic does. I do think like Optic are going into this as probably the most hated team.
Without a doubt, yeah, they have the biggest fan base against them.
So, like they're already on an uphill battle to, I guess, because that's like a mentality thing to go in and like they as much as they might be trying to ignore it, they know they're going in as the most hated team. Like that's a mental thing.
On the flip side, you've got players like Slasher and Kenny who were hated all of last year, being on 100 Thieves. I'm not sure why they were hated so massively, but they had a lot of people against them. Slasher's always got his haters, and
yeah, no, that is true.
So they are going to have some fans. I mean, they've got Dashi. You know, he's always going to bring some fans to his team. Everyone loves him. He's a good player, so you can't not be impressed by his gameplay. So he'll have the crowd hyped up on some of his snipes or whatever he brings to the table this year.
Oh yeah, definitely. I suppose like so that's obviously all the matches, but there's some things that we don't know yet. Is like we don't know casters, do we?
Yeah, that's a bit mad. It's 4 days out, and I guess it's majoritively the same people as last year. Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard much.
Presuming so. I mean, if they're smart about it, they would use the same casters because that's a familiar face for the fans. But I'm surprised they haven't announced anything yet, considering it is 4 days till the start. I think casters is something we don't know yet. I don't know if there's anything else that you were hoping to have been announced. One thing.
I'm pretty sure most of the stuff I wanted, like obviously the schedule, just knowing the timings. Really, I'm just glad that's out, so I can kind of plan my week, plan the weekend, and kind of know when to be around. Especially with what I'd like to give a little bit of a hint on with the stats stuff that's definitely going to be coming back this year, and I know that you're excited to show off some of the work that you've done to help with all the graphics that you've designed. So
on the stats this year.
Yeah, so we've got some fire stuff coming, some nice stuff coming for you guys. Lots and lots of stuff. Yeah.
Honestly, like I don't think they're ready for how good it's going to be and the content that the season's going to produce.
Pure fire. Absolutely, can't wait.
Oh yeah, definitely looking for 4 days till that, and so ready to show that off. I mean, like touching on things that we haven't seen yet. There's one thing, and this is just me as a creative, that I still hold out hope for, is cosmetics. I can't play the game at the moment, but like, I just it just baffles me if they don't announce cosmetics on the Friday for in-game.
I wouldn't bank on it.
I'm holding out hope.
I just don't see it happening, to be honest.
The only reason is because the Overwatch League, when that kicked off, they released all the skit. I'm just hoping it's the same.
Okay, yeah, maybe then. I just don't think they care enough. Well, I think they care about the game, but they clearly don't care about comp this year. So why the fuck would they put in cosmetics at that point? It'd be interesting.
The only reason I can think is I get that. Yeah, they don't care about comp, and if it wasn't for the franchise, I'd say there's no chance. But I just have a feeling that like the franchise is saying okay, do what you want with the game, but like this is a like you have to do this. It's part of the league. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I hope they do bring stuff. It just, like I said last week, it just brings more people into the world of professional esports, professional Call of Duty. So it'll be.
I mean, if
be
they're,
good.
they're bringing in content creators and stuff, so like, I don't see why they wouldn't try and broaden the scope more and get as many people aware of the CDL. Like, if you want it to be successful, we talked about it last week. If you want it to be successful, you need it to spread further afield than just the people interested in competitive COD.
Yeah.
You need to get new people in.
Of course.
Have
you got anything else that you want to touch on for this episode?
Not that I can think of at all. We've covered all the opening weekend. I think, obviously, you said you're going to put out on Twitter this week about getting people's predictions.
Good. Yeah, I forgot about that. Be putting out predictions this week for the original 12 matches, and then obviously going into they do have the kind of semi-finals and finals this week, don't they? They must do.
I think they're just doing like straight 12 games for this weekend.
Are they?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
there'll be predictions out. So.
Yeah, the proper schedule starts from London. Like the proper format.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, there'll be predictions out, and there'll be lots of graphics and stats out this weekend for everyone to enjoy. So hopefully you will look forward to that. Yeah.
So, I mean, just obviously as we're wrapping things up, if you are listening to this over on YouTube and you're catching it on the VOD of it, then make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We've also now. We are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We've got ourselves on there. So if you prefer just listening to the audio, go make sure you drop a follow. Also, much appreciated if you also drop a rating on the podcast. That helps really get it out there and share it about. We want this to be the number one podcast of the CDL. Would be amazing.
Yes.
If we can kind of grow it as the season goes, be pretty sick.
Got to try and beat the Spitfire podcast. That's the aim here. So. Going to be out obviously every Monday here on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/camallenn. Every week live at 8 p.m, followed by it being posted on YouTube and then on Spotify and Apple Music as said before by Horizontal.
Yeah. And obviously next time you see us, we'll have had the first opening weekend. We'll have lots to talk about next week.
Lots and lots to talk about, lots of stats to talk about, best players, everything. It's going to hopefully be a long episode next week, I would have thought.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody, wherever you're watching this. And we'll obviously be back next Monday at 8 p.m. for the third episode of CDL This Week. Make sure you hit the follow button on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube. And follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you later.
See you later, guys.